This is You've Already Been Hacked, recorded on 16 January 2021. This week, as we get started, I want to put a little, let's call it a disclaimer at the front. With the political emotions of the moment being a little high, this particular topic could be a little charged for the listener. I will do my best to keep any bias and anything that is directly related to the political moment at an absolute minimum. With that disclaimer out of the way, we still have to set up why we're going to talk about what we're going to talk about. So, due to the events on 6 January at the U.S. Capitol, we have seen there be a large movement from social media companies to quiet potentially hostile voices on digital media space, specifically social media companies. We've seen high-profile individuals stripped of their ability to communicate. We've seen those associated with those individuals have their ability to communicate also be limited. Now, whether or not you agree or disagree that those individuals should or shouldn't have been quieted, what we can learn from the moment is that centralized control of a platform where speech occurs can be problematic. What we have to ask ourselves overall is it something that we want? Do we want a company to make those decisions on our behalf, regardless of if we agree or disagree with their political biases or their terms of service? Or is there another way for that communication to happen? Well, this week we're going to talk about what that other way could be. Some of the reasons why it's positive, some of the reasons why it's a negative. We're going to go over something that's been relatively new, even by social media standards, and it's called decentralized social media. So what is decentralized social media? Well, the most appropriate answer is that it is not social media that has a central point of ingress or egress, a la corporate servers. Decentralized social media essentially is based on, for the majority, blockchain technology, very similar to that of your Bitcoin or other alternative cryptocurrency type things out there. Social media, decentralized social media, uses relatively the same technology to achieve its aim. Blockchain-based social media networks are decentralized through the use of distributed ledgers. The data of the users is not saved on one server, but many servers that are owned by people who are not connected or related to each other. That is one key way to prevent control from going into the hands of one entity, such as a corporate entity or a business. When you divide up that control, that particular type of centralization is out of the question. Some of the other potential benefits of centralized social media include a level of censorship resistance, personal data ownership, potentially improved content curation, little to no ads, and new content monetization models. One potential major downside to decentralized social media is that censorship resistance. What happens when anyone in the world can publish anything they want and no one can stop them? Some other things that come with decentralized social media is it's potentially very low cost to set up, fully pseudonymed, which means you may be able to be completely anonymous. It's programmatically open source. These can all be good things. Again, there's no fact checking that's done by a central corporation or entity. It's all decentralized. So communities of interests would end up having the responsibility, and perhaps not the liability, to curate and verify their content if that's something they even chose to do. So, with all that in mind, Professor, where can we find out about some of these options that exist out there? Are they all on the dark web? Do I have to set up a Tor node? No, they are already fully available, and many users have, for better or worse, begun to create accounts. I wouldn't say flock to, but have created accounts for access to these networks. Let's talk about a few of them very briefly, just so you have an idea of what is out there and what it can offer. The disclaimer on all of these is they may not be necessarily the experience you're already used to on your main social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc., etc. However, if you're looking for an alternative that is decentralized, that does not have one company's terms of service that you have to abide by, that you may or may not believe they are applying equally across the board, here are some of the alternatives you could choose to use. The number one is Minds. This would be equivalent to an alternative to Facebook or YouTube. It's open source and it's based on blockchain technology. However, you as an individual cannot host it or an instance of it by yourself. On Minds, you can post videos, blogs, images, and set your status. You can also message and video chat securely with groups of people or directly with friends. There are trending feeds and hashtags, and they all allow you to discover the content you're interested in. The next one is Aether. It's spelled Aether. This would be equivalent to an alternative to Reddit. It's also open source and it is peer-to-peer. The platform is self-governing its communities with auditable moderation and mod elections. The content on Aether is ephemeral in nature and is only kept for up to 6 months unless someone decides to save it. And since it's peer-to-peer, there are no centralized servers. Another alternative out there is known as Mastodon. This would be an alternative to Twitter. It's also open source, it is also decentralized, and you can host your own instances. It's widely known to free open source software enthusiasts. Mastodon isn't a single website like Twitter. It is a network of thousands of communities operated by different organizations and individuals that provide one social media experience. You can, as I said, host your own Mastodon instance and choose to connect it with other instances or just join one of the other instances that already exist. Next one we'll talk about real briefly is Library, spelled LBRY. It is a blockchain-based open source platform for sharing digital content. Very similar, or if you would like, an alternative to YouTube. It's gaining popularity as a decentralized alternative to YouTube, but Library is more than just a video sharing site. At its core, Library is a new protocol which is peer-to-peer, decentralized file sharing, and a payment network secured by blockchain technology. The next one is Karma. Karma would be the closest equivalent to Instagram. It is also decentralized and based on blockchain technology. It's built on top of the blockchain platform known as EOSIO. EOSIO. Every like and share of your content earns you Karma tokens, and you can use those tokens to boost your content or convert them into real money through one of the partnered crypto exchanges. Karma, as of right now, is a mobile app only available on the Play Store or the App Store, which, as we've seen, if those stores decide to crush your app, that may limit your access. The other options I've already spoken about are also all. The next alternative is PeerTube. This is also a YouTube alternative that is decentralized and peer-to-peer. PeerTube uses the BitTorrent protocol to share bandwidth between users. It is developed by a French company called Pharmasoft. PeerTube aims to distribute its ability and resist potentially corporate centralization. It does not rely on ads and does not track you. Please keep in mind, though, that your IP address or the IP address that you connect to your peer-to nodes with is known. The next alternative out there is Diaspora, spelled Diaspora. This is an alternative to Facebook. It is decentralized, it is open sourced, and you can host your own instance. It's been one of the earliest decentralized networks. As far back as 2010, it operates similar in the way Mastodon does, where it's composed of communities or pods, and you can register with any pod or host your own. No one owns your data except for you. Another YouTube alternative out there is DTube, and that is decentralized and based on blockchain technology. DTube is governed by DTube coins, or DTC, that creators earn when someone watches or interacts with their content. The coins can be used to promote their content or cashed out into real currency through partnered crypto exchange. A major messaging platform that has come to light at scale, and many in the tech community may already know about, is Signal, which is an alternative to WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger or Google Messenger or iMessage or any of those other type of similar platforms. Unlike the end-to-end encryption that's in WhatsApp, Signal does not track you, it does not share your data, and it does not, quote-unquote, invade your privacy. Now, Signal does use its own open source protocol to give you that end-to-end encryption of your messages and calls, and it does support voice and video calls and group texts at this time. Now, there are other options out there as well, which do have some more, we'll call them corporate interests. These companies and these platforms, I don't want to say are similar to the recently shut down one of Parler. Their terms of service are far looser than your other mainstream platforms. They are also based on open source technology. I'm not focusing on them, not because I don't believe in them or don't think they could be potentially good alternatives. I am simply not focusing on them because they have a semi-central control point, whereas the other ones we've spoken about today allow, in many instances, you to set up your own instance of it, which means that if the corporate entity were to be shut down or blocked by any other provider, your data would still be able to traverse the internet. Now, in all of these cases, I would advise you, if you do intend to migrate your social media to them, ensure you have good control, good conscience in what you're posting, and try not to use them for the darker parts of our personalities. If you're going to connect, I would strongly suggest doing so with a VPN or some other alternative that obfuscates where you're located if you're concerned about such things. And remember, because this content is likely to be far less controlled, you may run into darker parts of the internet than you are used to. You may run into parts of and conversations that may be less fruitful than other platforms. Or, on the flip side, you might find the people that you actually are looking to have that community grow and thrive. Links to all of these platforms will be provided in today's show notes. That's all for the news this week. I'm your professor of cyber risk. We'll talk again soon.